What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jack Ramsays, Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague, and introducing our special guest. Not only is the Trailblazers TV analyst, but the 2010 Blazers slam dunk champion during the summer, Lamar Hurd, the Prince of Bunnies himself.
You went deep into the archives for that one.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I will plug the link so that you can have it. I will put it in the chat right now so you can see Lamar Hurd in his absolutely insane hops back in the day.
That's the day when everything was functional, Danny.
Hey, listen, man. I remember functional body days. It's been a minute. Yours was a little bit more functional than mine on the vertical. What, you look like you about 39 inch vertical.
The highest I ever tested that was 44.
44?
Yeah, but I didn't use it until I started my career overseas in Germany. There's a buddy of mine sent me a video of this recently. I played with him in Germany. He lives here in Oregon now. And there's this game where he's throwing me a full court lob. I had another dunk in that game. And it's stuff that, I dunked at Oregon State from time to time, but nothing like that. Like, my head was all over the place then. So I didn't get it all together until basically it was too late. And so like there's dunks I've done in the dunk contest or other places that nobody ever saw if you saw me beforehand. But yeah, it was, so people later on in life believed it when I said it was 44. But if you saw anything before that, it'd be like maybe 39, 38, knocking on that door.
Which is still like insane bunnies.
It felt good to be able to get up there.
How often, Lamar, when you think about college and maybe where your mind was then versus like where it was in Germany?
Oh my God!
You have a great life. You had a great career. But like, how often do you just, if you're by yourself, you're bored, you randomly go through your mind of game moments? You're like, what? Why was I just standing there, not being more aggressive?
Maybe not all the time, but frequently, where I don't revisit it as, man, I wish I can go back and do that again, because I know I can't.
Right.
But what I try to do is spin it forward and apply it and just make sure not to make the same mistakes again. Like during that time, I was really big on, I wouldn't necessarily call it people pleasing, because I wasn't seeking out to please people. I just liked when people were happy and like in a good mood. And I liked when teammates liked playing with me. I liked when the fans who would come into Gill Coliseum felt like they had something to cheer about. Like, I'll never forget one time before the Oregon State game. It was my freshman year. We had Jimmy Anderson come and talk to our team. Former Oregon State coach, Jimmy Anderson, came and talked to our team in the locker room. And he was so worked up about telling us about the history of the rivalry. And he got to the point where like he started crying while he was telling us about it. And I felt so much emotion from him that like I started crying too, because I was like, man, it means this much to this dude. It's got to mean that much to me. He's a part of our Oregon State family. I want to make sure when we go out there and play in this game, like we represent him well. And I know if he feels this way, he's not the only one that feels this way. And that's one thing you do find out really quickly when you're an Oregon State student athlete. If there's one game that the fans want to see you win every year, it's the game against Oregon. And so like stuff like that, I would carry with me, maybe not in the healthiest of ways. Like there's probably sometimes I should have left the arena and just forgotten about it.
Right.
Like that stuff would get to me and it would like transfer over into the next game or that week of practice. And I'm thinking about, man, I let the fan base down, or I let this, instead of just hooping and just playing ball and just doing things. So it has helped me tremendously, Brandon, because I took so many lessons from that and have kind of applied it into even my broadcasting career, where I'm on TV, my voice goes out to a lot of people. Some people like that, some people don't. Some people are indifferent. Some people will vocalize how they feel. Some people won't. There's a lot that comes with it. And so like, I'm glad I learned certain lessons during my playing days that have helped me know how to move forward with now professionally, because otherwise, dude, you'd be like really messed up mentally. Like I know a lot of people in my position, when I talk to them, they struggle with some of that stuff. Like just what comes with being a public voice and the fact that you're open to hear from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacts how they then go about and do their job. And um, for me, I just got a very early trial run at what that is like. And it has impacted my life greatly. I wish that I would have been in a better position at that time to have handled it better, because there were a lot of things I wanted to accomplish at Oregon State. Like I played on a team that made it to the NIT, and that was a big deal. But we wanted to play in a tournament because prior to when I got there, the team hadn't been to the NCAA tournament or postseason play or a winning record in the 13 or 14 seasons prior. So the NIT was like this big deal. And I was thinking, I didn't come here for the NIT. Like we wanted to get into the NCAA tournament. But there were times where I wasn't in the headspace to do that. So to answer your question, man, I reflect on it often, and it's made me really grateful to have gone through that experience and to have had the opportunity in some other way to spin that forward, because not everybody gets that chance. Sometimes, people look back at certain careers and there's not like a second chance to make right what you felt like maybe you could have done better.
That was significantly more inspiring than I thought we were going to get into right out of the gate.
Look, I was expecting like a quick answer, and I was going to say, yeah, I had a game in high school that I always think about, and he's out here like, and I'm a better man. Like 20 minutes later, I'm like, damn, okay, what an answer.
Brandon and I are sitting here dealing with imposter syndromes every day on the radio, and he's talking about how, I've gotten past all that, and I'm a better man for it. Brandon and I are just sitting here like, we want to die a little bit on the inside every time we come home.
No, but like, it's not to go too much farther in it, but I do think it's a really big deal, man. It
is.
Like, there's a lot of people that look at things that we do, the access we have to a team like the Blazers and other sporting events, and they're not fully aware of everything else that comes with that. And kind of like how rooted you got to be with just kind of like who you are and what you're about. Because if not, like if you don't know who you are and what it is you're trying to do, somebody else will tell you who to be and how to go and do that. And now you got these different voices and you're trying to figure that stuff out. Mm-hmm. So I get an opportunity a lot of times to talk to like young people who aspire to be in roles like we're in. And like, I want to lay it all out for them. And I want to give them the real of, here's a lot of fun stuff and, some of the glitz and glamour that comes with this and all that. But here's some of the other stuff that comes with it too. And it's not necessarily bad stuff. It's just stuff that can be challenging, especially if you don't get a good grasp on it. Yeah. So I can talk about that all day, because I really do think it really impacts just your life at the end of the day. Like your decisions, the decisions you make, how you move forward, it really can impact you.
It's the real of it. I don't want to go away from this because I love where this is going, but there's something I have to ask you about, and why I set you up with the vertical conversation is because the Trailblazers have a young guy in Shaedon Sharpe who you've gotten to see up close and personal. And one of the cool things is that you guys have access to practice now, and you're able to kind of see from draft day kind of the ramp up as they get ready through camp and the opportunities there. What have you seen from this kid so far, and a guy who was a mystery on draft night?
All right. Where do I start with this one? Because there's a lot I can say about Shaedon. Mm-hmm. I actually just had a really good conversation with him a bit ago, and I'll get into that in a second. For me, when Shaedon first got drafted, like we kind of had a hunch that he would probably be the guy. You read certain reports. You guys, you've had Joe Cronin on this show. You know how awesome Joe is and how transparent he is to the level that he responsibly can be. So you can kind of see like where that was going. But in all honesty, I did not know a month prior to the draft that the team would be taking a kid that didn't play college basketball at all, because it was all about building around Dame. And what does that mean? And I didn't know that there was a teenager available that you could plug into the lineup and say, this is still building around Dame. Because this kid might be ready from day one. And also, you give them a year or two, who knows what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So I remember shortly after he got drafted, I did an event with Joe, with Dwayne Hankins, our president, business operations and with Chauncey Billups. And I got a chance to talk to Joe there a little bit more about Shaedon, and just his feedback seemed really encouraging. Like not the fake stuff, not the fake, I got to tell you this dude is good, even though
right.
It was like real stuff. So I was always, I was excited to then see him play because I hadn't seen him play at that time. Then I got in there before training camp even started and watched the team practice like it was just pickup play, it's pickup ball. And I kid you not, like the first day, it was like, okay, I get why he was the 7th pick. I get why they feel so good about him. I get why they feel like this is still Dame's timeline. There was just I know people have talked about the ease that he plays the game with a lot. There's certain shots he was shooting that day where just watching him shoot it, I kept thinking like, how's he shooting that so easy? Like that shot, he wasn't even making all of them. It was just the fact that he could get it off and the way that he was shooting it. It's like, you shouldn't be able to shoot that shot that easy. Not as a rookie. Some dudes get stronger. They learn how to shoot with distance. Some people's shot from distance is a little bit different than their shot from 16, 17 feet. Like there's all these variables that it seemed like he transcended somehow. And then there were these plays that he made on the floor where athletically you just saw it right away. I remember there was this dunk along the baseline that he reversed dunk. And I thought like, okay, well, that was different because I didn't even think he was going to try to dunk that. And then somebody there on the staff, they came and sat by me while I was watching. And they said, if I had to give him a comp, the comp that I could think of, and then I said, Devin Booker. And they said, yeah, but no, something more tenacious. And I said Devin Booker because Shaedon says he tries to model his game after Devin Booker. And the person who I sent him, I said, think Latrell Sprewell. The way that Sprewell used to like attack the rim and try to dunk everything, he's like, watch, this kid tries to dunk everything. Because this staff member had seen Shaedon from the day he was drafted. This was my first day seeing him. And as you guys have seen so far, if Shaedon is within distance of the rim,
he going for it.
Even if like you're quote unquote not supposed to, the tip dunk attempt he had at the Lakers, where he jumped outside the rim,
the tomahawk. Yes.
Who does that?
Oh my Lord.
Who tries to catch that and dunk it? And legitimately though, like it wasn't the fake stuff of like, I'm trying to create a highlight. It's like, no, he really thought he was going to dunk it. The drive he had at Sacramento, like some of his best highlights have been misses or just not completion. The drive against Sacramento in the first half, when he drove the baseline and extended with his left hand up above the rim, that was crazy to me. As soon as he did it, Rasan Gathers, who you guys know, our VP of PR communications, he turned around immediately and looked at me because prior to that, we had seen Shaedon do other stuff. Yeah, but the look was like, did he just try to? That's the kind of moments Shaedon has created. So this has led me to. I'm getting into that conversation I had with Shaedon. I wanted to know. When I see guys jump like that, I'm always really curious of how long have you been doing that? And I say that because Danny, you started off asking me about my vertical and all that. Like I couldn't always jump. I was a junior in high school. I hadn't received a Division I offer yet. An assistant coach from the University of Texas came to my high school and watched my team play. I played on a team that was a top 25 team in the country. All my other teammates were being recruited. I wasn't being recruited at that level. The coach left and said, when my coach asked for an observation of me, a report card grade, so to speak, the coach said, he's skilled enough, he can pass it enough, he can shoot it enough, he's smart enough, he's not athletic enough to play at our level. And that changed my life. Because at that time, I had moved out of my mom's house to go to this private school. Like I made some big sacrifices to go to the school. And I was like, if I don't get a scholarship, it's not going to be because I'm not athletic enough. So I just went full steam ahead. I did this whole jumping program called the Air Alert. I committed to it for like 3.5 months. I remember reading in a Slam magazine that Ray Young, who used to go to UCLA, I don't know if you guys remember him back in the day. I remember reading in a Slam magazine that Ray Young did 1,000 calf raises a day. And that's what contributed to his 40-inch vertical. So I was like, my back's against the wall right now. 1,000 is not good enough. So I did 2,000 calf raises a day for about 3.5, 4 months. I kid you not. After the first week of doing it, my calves got so tight that I had to miss a day of school. And that's when my mom was like, hey, you got to kind of redo this and rethink about this. So that's when I pulled back, and instead of going every day like my plan was, I went 6 days a week and I rested one day just to make sure, because I couldn't walk. I'm serious. I couldn't walk. So I went through this whole process where then my vertical leap went up like over a foot within 3 months. And then that's when my recruitment started. That's when I started hearing from D1s and the offers started coming in, because athletically, I became an entirely different player. So when I see guys that could jump, like that's kind of where my mind goes first, is like, when did it start for you? And I remember I had the same conversation with Anthony Simons, who he didn't start jumping until later on in his high school career. And so I was talking to Shaedon, and I said, okay, the way you jump now, when did you even start knocking on the door of that? And I thought he was going to say, as long as he can remember, he was athletic. It was basically like 2 or 3 years ago where he started jumping the way he's jumping now. And so I said, well, what happened? What was the difference for you? And he said, when he broke his leg around the 8th grade year, that's when he came back, was rehabbing the leg break, and just started taking some of those leg workouts really seriously and really focused in on it. And that's when he just started bouncing. But it wasn't even like 9th and 10th grade he started bouncing. He's like, it really wasn't until 11th grade, 12th grade. And he bought up Greg Brown III. And he's like, I don't have like a mixtape like Greg Brown III. I wasn't like, you guys maybe have seen GB3's high school mixtape. It's crazy.
It's insane.
You would think he's the best dunker of all time, which he might compete for one day. Who knows?
Right.
But Shaedon was like, no, I wasn't doing all that. And so I was like, okay, that's pretty crazy that you went from like not jumping to what you do now. Cause like you're an elite, you're like a top 5 jumper in the league, like legitimately.
Yeah.
And so then I wanted to know from him, okay, so maybe then if you weren't jumping like Anthony, like myself when I was in high school early on, we at least shot the ball. Like that was our thing. We weren't athletic, but we shot. So I was like, so like when did you become a really good shooter? He was like, I was a horrible shooter early in high school. And I said, that's what Brandon, the look you just gave.
Well, yeah, because I think I'll add to this. I'm one of those idiots that like brags about shooting, right? Because I think if you play basketball, you have an eternal belief about yourself. Usually when you're a shooter, you're always been a shooter. You don't just.
That's what I'm saying.
You either got a ratchet or you don't.
That's what I'm saying.
You got it or you don't. Yeah.
Like from 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you can shoot the ball.
Yes.
I know. So when he said that, I kind of had the same look. And I said, what do you mean you weren't? He was like, man, I just wasn't. It really wasn't until like my junior or senior year where I could jump, I could shoot, and I felt like I just had everything. So that like changed my whole perspective of like what the game really does come easily to you in a way that doesn't happen to other people.
Man,
like you don't just be, because he could shoot it easily now. He can shoot with range. His shot looks like it's going in every time he shoots it.
Every time,
like,
yeah.
It's easy. And so it just really tripped me out, because most people, when I talk to them, most athletes like that, like there is a timeline where that journey has started a lot sooner. So when I think about Shaedon now, even like it's even different now than before. I just spoke to him recently, where I was already super high on him. Now I'm so curious of how good, because I don't want to be the dude to be like, dude, like this might really be a superstar here. Because I've never experienced that in my 7 years here, where the team has drafted someone who you look at and you're like, this could like be one of the greats. When they like, there's guys on the team now who, and I don't want to say Ant can't be that guy or somebody else. Like I think Ant will be an all-star and all that stuff. I'm talking about like when you start talking about that conversation, like when generational, when the Lakers drafted Kobe Bryant one day and said, "Baby Kobe,"
you're feeding into him, Lamar.
Baby Kobe. And that's
he's been calling him Baby Kobe.
I've been calling him Baby Kobe since I saw him. I love the kid's demeanor. I think he's got the right attitude, and he doesn't ever, Lamar, ever. He's never been on the floor in his 6-game career. And I'm like, oh, man, they put the rookie, and I'm a little concerned here. Not one time has he had that moment for me. That's baby Kobe.
So that's what I'm. So I please don't take this as me saying he's going to be the next Kobe Bryant.
I'll say it.
Okay, you can have that.
I'll say it. You won't. Okay.
So what I am saying though is, if he turned out to be that, I legitimately would not be surprised.
It's not shocking, right?
I would not be shocked at all.
Chauncey's
I don't know that it will happen, but yeah. So like that's where I'm at now with him, and like I don't want to overreact and all that, but I'm just saying fundamentally where he is right now, based on the timeline he gave me, that doesn't make sense all the way. Like there's something different here, so I'm super excited about him, man.
I love the fact that you harken back to a familiar time for me, and I think a lot of people in our age range, because I can remember vividly as a 5'7" white kid reading Slam and seeing the jump shoes and going, "Damn, I wish I could afford these, man."
The Air Alert,
Air Alert jump soles, and I'm like, if I get this, my game's going to a different level. I never got them. Let me ask you, so Shaedon's being developed. It surprised us. You don't have to say if it surprised you or not, but he's immediately inserted into their first game, right? He gets these minutes. Whoa, here we go. He's got a big game tomorrow on ESPN. I want to ask you the coaching thing. So I think it's evident that buy-in, that trust, that belief in each other is there, the camaraderie that you want to see. As somebody who knows the game on a much deeper level than all of us, what do you see with Chauncey from an actual coaching standpoint that like pops to you with what he's doing with this group?
That's great timing for that question. I just talked to Chauncey today about some of that very thing. And I think the thing that stands out about him is the same thing that stands out about our leadership across the board. So if you look at Joe Cronin, the general manager, if you look at Damian Lillard, Dwayne Hankins, who I named earlier, all of them have a way about their leadership where they don't scare you into following them. It's not a my way or the highway approach. It is they lead by example in a way where you feel inspired to come along for the journey. Like with each of those guys, I would imagine this is how a lot, if not all of the players feel. When Chauncey draws up a play, if one of the guys goes out on the floor and forgets to play, I would imagine, based on how he leads and how I see them connect with him, that it's almost like that feeling like when your parents or your guardian or whoever, your mentor, tells you they're not mad at you, they're just disappointed. It's that same vibe where it's like, man, I didn't even want to disappoint you because you've been so good and respectful to me as a human, as a person. You've connected with me in a way where I want to be a part of uplifting whatever you're doing. I think Dwayne gets that on his side of things. I think Joe gets that. Dame gets it as a player. And I think Chauncey has gotten that with his crew. Like there's times, he was talking about this today. He's like, there's times where after a game, they'll come to the video session the following day and he'll tell the guys like, man, you know what, that challenge, the timing of that challenge, I messed up. I shouldn't have issued that challenge. Like that's how he'll start the meeting, with what he did wrong, to put it out there. Like, I'm not here to just point the finger and say, you did this and this is this. It's all about winning and the team. So if I, as the coach, did something that I feel like did not contribute to us winning, I'm gonna be the first person to tell you what I did. And then we can talk about what else everybody else did. And then it's not taken personally because it's clear that the team is what's first. And I think more than anything, that's what he's done. And it's one of those things where you can't always point a finger to it. Like there's not always this big tangible example or time that you reflect on and say, that was the moment that he connected, or that. It's really about how you carry yourself and who you are within yourself and who you are to other people. And I really think that that's what separates all of those leaders. Like there's a level of consistency they provide all the time where you just feel like you're on board and you're doing the same thing. So I think he's gotten that buy-in from these guys now because they've all just felt over a certain amount of time like, man, this dude is for us. Like he's trying to help his team first. It's not about him. And I really just think that that's what's rubbed off. And I speak a lot of times about how I feel like Dame is as good as it gets as a leader. And there are some tangible examples I could point to. But beyond that, it really is who he shows up as every day and how he connects with people. That is just different. And it doesn't happen that way. The way Chauncey connects as a head coach with everyone, not only on the team, but his support staff. Like, I've had them tell me stories. I've had people on our H&P, health and performance staff, unsolicited, tell me about, man, Chauncey, he asked me what I thought about this. And that's foreign to me. I'm not used to a coach asking about that. And that's no shade on any coach prior. That's not saying a certain coach before didn't do it the right way. It's just Chauncey does it a different way. And it's a way that connects. It's a way that then leads that staff member to feel like, I want to talk about this because this is the greatest thing. Like, I've never had this happen. And you feel a certain level of inclusion. And once everybody like feels like you're doing something together, that's when a team can become powerful. And I feel like in the first few games here this season, I've seen this team play together in ways that I haven't seen at this level before. I've seen some great basketball. I've seen some star play, huge games, highlights, and all that. It's just been different this season in a way that it has felt different than any seasons past. And I really think Chauncey deserves a ton of credit for just that internal culture that he has established with everyone in the basketball ops side of things.
The demise of Damian Lillard has been greatly exaggerated. I was talking to some few people in his camp who said that they watched some film with him right after he kind of recovered from surgery and was ramping up, and compared that to the last couple of years. And what Dame did with that injury is almost to the point of miraculous when you consider, a baseball-sized knot in his groin that's keeping him from mobility. Obviously, he's down for a couple more days at least here right now with the calf strain. But in the first, 5 games, you saw maybe the best version of Damian Lillard physically that we've seen in 4 or 5 years, and it was bearing itself out in the numbers. He was finishing 71% of his shots at the rim. He's a career 56, 57% guy. That burst that we know that he has was even more apparent, maybe more so than we've seen since he was 25, 26 years old. Mm-hmm. What else have you seen, not just from Dame, but just Ant getting a year older, Josh Hart coming into this team, Jeremy Grant being introduced into this team? Like, what are the things like you're like, this is different, that's standing out to you? Because the wonderful thing about calling games is you have the best seat in the house. And so you get to see these things up close and personal. What has been so different about this team, the tangible physical things that's different from the other iterations of the Blazers teams you've seen in the past?
You guys have a great eye for it too. So I know that you've seen this as well. The number of attackers that they have that can create an advantage is unlike any season that I've been a part of so far. The amount of different people that can catch the ball on the perimeter and just make somebody help, or get a rebound, push in transition, make somebody help, is greater than any other season. And that now enables them to run. It kind of goes hand in hand. They're moving faster. There's a level of athleticism that wasn't there before. I think Jeremy Grant is a game changer. Even games when he doesn't score a whole lot of points, just his dynamic, like, people are aware of him. They know he can catch in the mid post, turn, face. He can play back to the basket. And again, even if it doesn't lead to a score, there's always this feeling of there's pursuit to the rim. And when you're out there on the floor, like, as people who are sitting on the sidelines, which we all do now, our experience watching the game is different than the guys who are on the floor watching the game. Mm-hmm. So we might see, like, Danny, you just went over some of the numbers. So we might see Jeremy Grant go to a post up, let's say 5 times, mm-hmm. and he only scores on 2. Like, that's not great conversion. No. But if he's getting 4 or 5 really good shots at the rim, when you're out there playing, you feel that.
The process.
And you know that's Jeremy Grant getting really good shots at the rim. Like, we got to stop that. Us on a sideline might be able to say, well, you only scored twice. It wasn't 5. You're not thinking about it like that when you're on the floor. So this team now is giving opponents a different feeling than I feel like any team in my 7 years that I've been here has given opponents. Like, there is real fear. We were sitting in the pregame interview for Michael Malone when Denver came to town. I never heard a coach talk pregame the way that he was talking about the Blazers.
Yep.
One of the first things he was saying, we got to get back in transition. We got to, like, you can tell in his coaches meeting, they had probably talked about, hey, we can't send everybody to the offensive glass. We got to, and that has not been a thing in the past because they know not only is it Josh Hart that gets the ball, if Jeremy Grant gets the ball, if Ant gets the ball, whoever gets the ball, they're running. And like, they're going at our necks all the time. And now, like, the whole dynamic has shifted where the one thing that I feel like the team would have been very well off for being able to do sooner is have times when Dame can be a trailer into the play, or Ant, the way that he scores a ball, where they're not being located right away every time, where defenses are basically setting up help position, communicating pick and roll before those guys even cross half court. So now what's happening is Jeremy, Justice, Josh Hart, it'll be Trendon Watford when he gets back. Those guys are creating offense so soon and then allowing Ant and Dame to like run into plays. That's so hard to guard against when those guys are running into a situation. Like, those are drills you do. You do those drills in practice where as a defender, you sit under the 3-point line. The guy is going to be at half court who's going to get the ball. He runs into the play, and now you're trying to guard like almost in a closeout situation. The point of it is because that's super challenging. So in practice, you try to work on that so that in the game, it's not as hard, or in the game, you hope you have help set up and things like that. These guys are creating that situation for opponents with regularity in games. So it's just really that whole team effect of having so many attackers. That is the most tangible difference to me of any other season that I've been a part of.
I'm glad you mentioned Lamar the feel, right? Because it's different for them on the court, and what may look bad to us may not look or feel as bad to them. Cleaning the Glass has it right now. Their turnover percentage on offense, they're 26. So they're in the bottom 4 of the league. They're struggling with turnovers right now. I know they've talked a lot about that. Do you feel like they're seeing it different where this is it chemistry? Is it, how do we attribute turnover problems and how to get better in it? It's even so early in the season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for that at all. I think that's bad basketball a lot of times. Now, if it's a turnover, as you guys are aware, that you're making because you're making the right play, and maybe the defense did something to force that turnover, nobody's tripping about that. Yeah. Coach Billups is okay with that because that's basketball. It's the other stuff. It's the playing up late against the shot clock, getting a shot clock violation when the defense didn't force you to do it. It's calling a play and everybody not getting to their positioning. And so now you throw a bad pass or something like that. Like, those are the things that I would attribute to guys still getting accustomed to one another. Dame and Ant, that whole dynamic of that backcourt of like, all right, who's setting up this play at this time? Who's taking it here? Who's doing it? Like, that stuff still needs to be worked out, but they are having far too many turnovers that are unforced, unprovoked. And I don't think there's an excuse for that. And that's something that they take ownership of. And also something that, as an announcer of the team, encourages me, because that stuff you can control. Like, the times when the ball's just being thrown away and there was no reason for that. Like, as a team, you can control that. You can get better at that. So it excites me to think like, okay, if they get a handle on that, or when they get a handle on that, now you're giving all these attackers so much more opportunity. And then also with that, Brandon, is the pace of play, I think, does contribute to that a little bit. These guys are playing at a different speed throughout most of the game than they have in years prior. And you got to learn how to make those decisions at that quick rate, that quick speed. So I do think it will all get better.
We'll get you out of here on one of these here, because we do need to make sure we keep the PR guys happy.
You're good.
Well, you don't get 4 days off very often, so you might as well take it full advantage.
This is crazy.
The Blazers added a lunatic to their team last year in Josh Hart. And I mean that in the most endearing manner possible. Mm-hmm. Chauncey has alluded to more than a few instances in practice already where he has basically got to restrain him. And again, I mean that in the most endearing manner possible. What has it been like having him around this team? Because the Blazers have missed a guy like this. They have not had a guy like this. Wes was probably the last guy they had who had a little bit of a screw loose. And it's not exactly shocking that the Villanova guy and the Marquette guy both have kind of the same mentality. That kind of tracks right along with what I expect from those guys. What have you taken from Josh, not only last year in that limited run that he got, but really leading into this year? Because he did an interview with Brooke and Casey where he basically said, I'm a bleepity bleep. Like, I know that's who I am, and I know that gets out of control, and I know that's sometimes problematic, but I love basketball more than anything. And we're seeing around the league right now where basketball is not always the most important thing for everybody on the floor. So what has it been like being around Josh, not only during the games, but like how he conducts himself in practice and that competitiveness, that fieriness, and just kind of how that kind of goes through the team now?
I was in a practice facility in September. This is before training camp started, and they were playing pickup games this day. I had been there the whole week, and most of the guys had filtered out of the building, and Josh was shooting free throws. I think there might have been 3 players total on the floor at different baskets. So Josh had the basket to himself, and he's like shooting free throws. He made most of them, and then he missed one. And when he missed it, he got the ball, dropped the ball, booted it all the way up. It hit I think it hit a light. It hit the ceiling. I thought it hit a light because I was thinking like, wait, could that mess up the light? Could that break up the light? Booted the ball, yelled, went back to shooting his free throw. And then that was it. And that's who, this is just a random September day. This isn't training camp. They were there for pickup games, but that's who he is. So when you hear those stories about like how much this consumes him, I got a chance to see it live and in person. And I throughout the years, like I've seen super intense basketball players and stuff like that. Like at this moment, I didn't think the situation was that bad. I thought you made most of your free throws. Like he missed one and responded that way. But that tells the story of how much every single bit of it matters to him. And a lot of times the phrase for a guy that like plays hard, the phrase gets tossed around of, and he doesn't take a play off. And it's like, that's not true. There's people who take a playoff. Mm-hmm. There's people who take which is totally normal throughout the course of an NBA season or just even a game. Yeah. I really don't think Josh Hart takes a playoff. Watch him every time the team's running back on defense. He's in tune. He's alert. If there's something to talk, he talks through it. Offensively, he's getting it. He's going. He's creating fast breaks out of nothing. And I think that's the biggest thing I can say about him is I really don't think he takes a playoff in the literal sense. He doesn't take a playoff after a pickup game and he's shooting free throws. Like every single bit of it matters to him. And I have not seen one example where there's a training camp practice or pickup game or whatever, where it's different. And that is so unique to me. I don't know that I've seen that before. And that's not, to me, like that's not even an indictment on other players around the league, because I think it's perfectly normal to take a play off when you play the kind of minutes he plays. It's one thing if you're like some bench guy that only plays 5 minutes a game, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a starter that isn't just the defensive specialist, mm-hmm. or isn't just like he's expected to play the all-around game and he doesn't take anything off. I think he's really transformed this team and has allowed them to play. I think he's the catalyst of this up-tempo play, of, like you said, just that attitude that he carries. He's a difference maker. And that's why Dame loves him the way he loves him. That's why his teammates love him. Coach Billups loves him. I think he's really special. And I know when you start getting around trade season and stuff, you know, it's the job of Joe Cronin to look at assets. And I don't know what direction he's going to go with that ultimately. But Josh Hart is a tremendous asset, also a tremendous player to have for the way that this team plays. So I'm interested to see kind of, man, how does this all pan out? I know Josh loves his time with the Blazers. He loves his team. He likes how things are going. I know the Blazers feel the same way, and I hope it can remain. But I know he's going to be a sought after dude when, you know, people are now getting a chance to see what he's capable of. And it's nice to see. For me, like, I like when like the collegiate dudes who have proven themselves are still valued. You know, like so much of the league is potential and, you know, let's give a guy a chance. Let's throw this flyer. And it's like, you got this guy who's a champion who has won everywhere he's been. Yeah. He's proven that he can do this. So none of this should be a surprise. Like, he's done this. So I'm happy for Josh. I'm happy that Josh has even gotten this opportunity to show what he probably feels he could have been doing consistently as a starter throughout his whole career.
Two quick questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time.
I just got two more real quick.
Yeah.
Last time, because I text with some Blazer fan buddies of mine, and oftentimes we see you on the telecast and you're always smiling and you're always upbeat and you're positive. Last time Lamar Hurd was kick the ball, add a light, scream and obscenity, whatever it was. You stubbed your toe in the middle of the night. You packed the wrong suit, whatever it was. The last time Lamar Hurd got legitimately upset.
I get upset often. It's not, you know, in public forums typically, but the times I get upset is when I feel I don't know if anything bothers me more than somebody that has power and influence and they abuse it. When I see a leader,
buddy, this is a rough time for you.
When I see a leader, whether it's of a team, a business, and they have a chance to set a culture and an attitude and just an energy about what they're doing for other people that impact their lives. And not only do they not do that, but then they do the opposite. And people are coming to work and they're not happy and they don't feel like they're a part of whatever's going on. And that upsets me. That upsets me like no other. That's maybe more than anything else. That's what I have a huge problem with. And I'm in sport. You guys are in sports. Sports has as much influence as almost anything else. Mm-hmm. Like, there's things like I know there's certain doors that have been opened to me or for me because of my affiliations within sports, or because of my resume or past with sports. And I feel like the worst thing I could ever do in that situation is not use that for something positive, but rather feel like I'm above somebody else who doesn't have the same affiliation and the same resume, when I had the opportunity to set a whole different standard and a whole different culture. So like when I see that, that's when I have a real problem. Like I'm not a fighter. I'm not a kick the ball dude. Like I can let a lot of stuff brush off and keep it moving. But when I see that, I have a hard time with that. And that really ruffles my feathers in a different way than most things.
And how often does your wife make fun of your Bachelor days where you tried to be on The Bachelor?
Dude, this is a whole different, we'd have to do a whole different podcast on this, because
I didn't forget those days, man. I didn't forget those days.
Here's the thing though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you even knew what those days were about, because my wife and I were dating during those days. We were together.
No kidding.
So yes, because The Bachelor was never about actually getting on The Bachelor. I had to sell it that way. Otherwise, my whole plan would have been foiled. But what I was trying to do at that time, I was working in youth basketball, and there's some stuff that I wanted to do for the kids I was working with. One of those things was I wanted to establish a facility. I wanted to get a home for the kids that they could have where they can always go somewhere, because that's what I had growing up for me. My mentor growing up for me was, next to my mom, the most influential person in my life, and really helped me kind of stay on the straight and narrow. And so I wanted to provide our kids with a similar type of structure where there was a home base where they could always be around people. And so through a series of conversations, without going through all this in detail, one thing that I had thought of through a conversation with a friend is if we can meet somebody who might share a similar interest or passion that has the means to help us make this happen, then we want to do it. So the name Oprah got thrown out there. And so I was like, man, I got to meet Oprah. And this all stems off of, we were talking about Kobe Bryant earlier. The pursuit of Oprah stemmed off of an experience I had with Kobe Bryant 2 or 3 months prior to this time, where I had never met Kobe, never talked to him, never nothing. And I randomly said, it's crazy that I haven't met Kobe, considering the basketball circles I've been in and the people that I know at Nike and stuff. 3 weeks later, Kobe Bryant was in the back of my car. And that's a whole different story itself. So the way that came about got me into this mode where I was like, oh, I can meet Oprah too then. Because I just said 3 weeks ago, I'm serious.
No, I believe
in a different headspace.
I believe that.
And so the way that I thought to do it is my assistant at the time was trying to get me on The Bachelor for like years, because I was single for years. And I would always say no. But then when I tied in, like, hey, maybe if I release this campaign, say the first Black Bachelor, as soon as I put the word Black in there, that's going to catch on. That's going to go viral. And it did.
And it did.
I did. And I made a trailer. It went viral.
Yeah.
And it became this thing. And it got pretty crazy. It got pretty intense, where I was hearing from everybody, ABC, E! Hollywood, all these people. And the Bachelor people even had me go down to the office in Southern California and interviewed me. And after that, somebody had asked me, there's like, because there was only like 3 or 4 people who knew that I wasn't really trying to get on the show. And they said, what are you going to do if they actually invite you to go on the show? Because I was dating my wife at the time. So it's not like I'm really trying to go meet somebody.
Right.
And it kind of got to a point where it's like, man, I don't even really know, because I haven't accomplished a goal yet. So I don't want this all to die down. And I had a group of parents that were parents of the kids I was working with at that time that pulled me aside one day, and they were like, you know what, this whole Bachelor thing, we don't know what's going on, but it just doesn't seem like something you would actually really be interested in. What's going on? And me and that group of parents, we went to a restaurant in downtown Portland. This is the summer of 2012. And I told them what I was trying to do. And they were like, shut all that down. We'll try to help with the youth organization and try to figure this out. We're not Oprah, so we're not giving you Oprah money or nothing like that. But let's figure out a different way to go about this. And I emailed the people at The Bachelor and told them, thank you for all the last few months. But I'm officially out of the running. And I don't know if they would have picked me anyway, but I wanted to do that so that it didn't get to that point. Because prior to that point, they invited me to come on The Bachelorette and to go on The Bachelor Pad. And I declined them both. And even when they said The Bachelor Pad and I declined, they were dumbfounded, because they said, wait, are you sure? Because most people don't turn that down. They said it's a chance to win $250,000. And then also, if you come on that, even if you don't win, once you get into our franchise, that makes it easier for us to possibly when they promote you at The Bachelor. Yeah. And I said no, because they didn't know I'm not trying to actually get on the show or win money. I need to generate enough buzz where I feel like this is going to get to Oprah. And the only way I'm going to do that is if my name and The Bachelor is attached to it. So like, it's a whole long story.
I really thought at dinner you were going to say that the parents, we sat down and one of them goes, I'm best friends with Oprah. Like, I thought that's where that was going. The way Kobe was in your back seat. Yeah.
That would have been a nice ending.
That's a good story. That's a good backstory, though. I didn't know that.
Most people don't. It's probably the most misunderstood thing in my life, which I understand.
I was rooting for you. You're Beaver. I was like, yeah, let's get some Morgan State.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that have my back.
So Oprah never reached out?
No. Once it died down in 2012, it was.
Get a hold of Stedman. I mean, it's probably a lot easier and just go through Stedman.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing the same stuff that I was doing then.
Yeah.
Kids. And so like the thing that's become cool about even my role with the Blazers is, like I was saying, I know sports gives you a certain platform ability to do things. And there's been some things I've been able to be a part of that has, blessed other people in certain ways who deserve it. Like there's just so many good people doing like good stuff, but they're not the ones who are celebrated the way athletes are celebrated. And so through my role and just certain doors that have fortunately been opened with the Blazers, like I've been able to help those people in a way that back in 2012, I wish like somebody would take serious what I was trying to do. And so it's like, it's in a cool way worked itself out where it's not the direct me meeting Oprah, me building a facility for a group of kids, but I've been able to see other people do similar stuff. And that's been just as good.
All right, man. Well, we've kept you long enough. We appreciate you more than you know. Folks, you can find Lamar on social media at L_her. You can watch him during every Trailblazers broadcast alongside his broadcast partner, Kevin Calabro. Real quick, thank you, Lamar, for joining us, man. We really appreciate you. You can find the show at Jack Ramsays across wherever you get podcasts on YouTube. If you're watching live or you're watching the replay, please click subscribe, help us grow the show. Other than that, you can find myself and Brandon on social media at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague, and at Jack Ramsays for the show. Email the show, jackramsays@gmail.com. We will catch you guys later this week, and then Brandon's got something to say.
I just want to add one more real quick since we're still live and before we cut out. I just wanted to thank you publicly, actually, because you and Dame both work with Park Rose High School students, and I don't think, well, I know some people do, but having actually gone to Park Rose myself, like I know what that district and school is kind of largely been. And so like I know how important and vital that community work is to those kids, because we didn't have a Damian Lillard, we didn't have a Lamar Hurd, and seeing you guys actually do what you do, I just wanted to thank you publicly, because I'm a Park Rose alum and a lot of those kids get forgotten over in that side of town. So I just appreciate it.
Thank you for saying that, man. It's really been a pleasure doing it. And one of the groups over there that I do that in connection with is Elevate Oregon, which is a youth mentorship group. And that's a perfect example of there's these people who are doing that work every day. Like I go and do it when I can. I'm not able to do it all the time, but there's a group of people who are. It's like we're on the same team. Like you and we're on the same team. We both want to see Park Rose succeed. And so I just feel like there's so many elements of life where it's like, man, how do we do this? How do we do this together? It might be in different ways, but the goal is the same of what we want to see happen. So I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate the work Elevate's done over there and the Park Rose staff, because you're right. It's not easy. And we have an opportunity to help out. So it's really simple in my book.
And as always, Lamar's the best, guys. So go ahead, take a part in the Blazers broadcast, and we will have you guys covered where Lamar and Kevin will be calling all the games on the 6-game road trip. You can participate in obviously the watch parties. Just go ahead and subscribe to Jack Ramsays after you join, and that'll get you into all the watch parties all year. That's what, 40 more games? We only had one road game.
One
so far,
road
right?
game, yeah. No, two. Sacramento, LA.
There you go. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys before I go.
Yeah. What's up?
Tomorrow, Ja Morant, Shaedon Sharpe. Who has the most bounce?
Okay, so that's it's
per capita. It's got to be Ja, doesn't it? Like 6 foot nothing, jumping as high as it looks as Shaedon is. Like, not to disrespect Shaedon.
No.
But...
What you got, Danny?
I was saying it's different kinds of bounce. John's got those bird bones where he looks like he doesn't weigh anything when he floats.
Yeah.
Chauncey said something today that, again, Chauncey's not a guy that hands out compliments like this. He said Shaedon's game reminds him a combination of Brandon Roy and Vince Carter. Like, Shaedon's got that ferocious bounce, so it depends on what your preference is. I bet you if you put them on the measuring stick, Shaedon has more legitimate bounce. But I think Ja has that float quality because he's got those bird bones. He's kind of spindly and he just kind of looks like he hangs up there.
Yeah.
So, but I bet you if you measured him, Shaedon's got more actual bounce.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. There's like a thunder with Shaedon's jumping that just hits different. Well, I asked you guys that because I was curious what your thoughts are. And then also that is one thing Shaedon mentioned to me is I asked him because I said, is there somebody who impresses you with their bounce? Because somebody like you, there's probably only five people in the
guys
world.
in the league who have that
right
bounce.
In the world.
Yeah.
that would impress you with the bounce. And the one name he said was Ja Morant. He's like, that's somebody who he looks at, and he even said he tried to model some of his game after once he started getting good in high school, which is interesting. I hadn't heard that before.
A combination
of watching that.
Combination of Ja Morant, Devin Booker, Brandon Roy, and Vince Carter.
Don't forget Kobe Bryant. Don't forget Kobe Bryant.
Hey, and the fact that there's legitimacy to all of those comparisons, tells you how special he is.
I said we'd get you out of here, but I got to throw this one at you because this is the conservative one that I threw out last week.
Okay.
The conservative projection that I have for Shaedon on what we have seen is current era Andrew Wiggins at the guard position. A very good individual defender, an elite athlete, a knockdown shooter, a guy that runs the channels. He may not be the creator that he could be later in his career, but just looking at his game right now, I looked at the kind of like the smaller version of the Golden State Andrew Wiggins. And I've had some people say, yeah, I get it, but I think he'll be better. I'm like, do you understand how good Andrew Wiggins is?
We just want a little more, Danny. That's all.
I get it.
More than Andrew
I am a guy that says
I want Klay Thompson. You know what I mean? I want Steph Curry. I want the best of the best.
Ant's a guy who, when he first came out, the first time I ever saw him play, I said, that's a guy who can get his shot off against literally anybody in the NBA. I don't know what he'll turn into, but I know he's got one of the a legitimate top 5 shot creation platform in the league. Day one. I don't know what the rest of the stuff is. I look at Shaedon right now. I go, you put a ball in front of him defensively, he's got natural inclination and talent defensively. Mm-hmm. You get him running a channel, he's incredible. You give him some space to knock down a shot, he's got some juice to him. Yeah. But what we haven't seen yet is his ability to create, both off the dribble and for others. I don't know what's in that package outside of what I've seen in the EYBL stuff.
I think he can do that.
And now you're just teasing.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I've seen reason to believe that he can do that, and I think the more, you guys know how this works, the more the greener your light gets to do in a real game what you're capable of doing, because those are two different things.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of practice all-stars that you don't see that skill on the floor. And I don't think that's going to be the case with Shaedon. So he has shown that ability to do that. And I try to be careful with putting an expectation. And I know that's not what you're doing. Yeah. So I try to be really thoughtful of that, because I don't ever want this to be something that throughout his career, it's not like he's listening to me. But if this narrative starts to take over of he's supposed to be this, and then he doesn't turn out to that, I don't want him feeling like he didn't
live up to something.
Like you're saying, if you turn out to be Andrew Wiggins, man, that was you are a very, very good NBA player.
You're an all-star.
Yes.
You got $200 million contracts.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on, man.
It ain't all bad.
No.
But if you told me he was a mixture of all those names we just talked about, there's not one part of me that would be not even shocked, surprised. He's got some different stuff, man.
That's a mutant I can get behind.
Yeah.
I 100%. As always, man, we can get behind you. We love you. We appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise, man.
I know you're about to go out on one hellacious road trip. 6 games in 8 nights. It gets very, very dicey. A 5-1 start. The Blazers take on the Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow night, and Chauncey has already said Damian Lillard will not play tomorrow night. So one would assume we probably see Shaedon Sharpe make his national TV debut for ESPN tomorrow night. So it's a fun thing to get hyped up for. Again, Lamar, thank you for taking the time, folks. Again, like, rate, review, subscribe, help us grow the show. We will be there, have you covered for every game of the road trip. I'll be in the building tomorrow night as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies, and barring going to double overtime, I will probably do another insane late night show at midnight, because everybody keeps loving those. For Brandon and Lamar,